Welcome back to the official English channel. It's great to have you all joining us again. I'm Sophia, and I'm really looking forward to today's session because we're exploring a technique that can transform the way you practice speaking English.
And I'm John. I've been excited about this topic all week. It's simple, it's practical, and once you understand how it works, it can strengthen your speaking skills faster than you might expect.
Exactly. We're talking about the shadowing technique, which many language learners around the world rely on to sound more natural and confident. It might seem unusual at first, but once you get the hang of it, you'll realize it's one of the most active and hands-on ways to improve your English.
A lot of people hear the word shadowing and wonder what it actually means. So, before we move into anything complicated, let's make it simple. When you shadow someone, you listen to a short piece of audio and repeat what the speaker is saying at the same moment they say it. You're not waiting until they finish the sentence. You're following right behind them, almost like an echo that doesn't fall behind.
That's a great way to picture it. Think of it like you're walking side by side with the speaker's voice instead of walking behind it. You're matching their pace, their rhythm, the melody of their sentences, and the natural way they stress certain words. You're not just copying the vocabulary, you're absorbing the sound of the language itself.
And that's the part that surprises many learners. They expect it to be about memorizing words, but it's really about tuning your ear to what English actually sounds like. Textbooks can show you grammar rules, but they can't always make the rhythm of spoken English click into place.
Before we go deeper, let's remind our listeners about something important. If you're gaining value from these lessons and want to keep improving your English with us, make sure you subscribe to the official English channel. It helps others find these lessons too, and we appreciate every listener who supports what we do.
And if you come across a question while you're watching or listening, leave it in the comments. Whether it's about shadowing or any other part of your English journey, we always enjoy hearing from you.
Now, let's talk about why shadowing is so powerful. One of the biggest benefits is pronunciation. When you try to follow a fluent speaker in real time, you gain immediate awareness of how English sounds versus how you think it sounds. Some words don't follow the rules you expect when you first learn them.
Absolutely. English spelling can be misleading. A word can look simple on paper, but sound completely different when spoken. Shadowing trains your mouth to move the way a native speaker's mouth moves. You start to notice where your tongue should be, which syllables are emphasized, and how the sounds connect naturally.
Another major benefit is that it sharpens your listening skills. You're not just hearing the words, you're actively processing them. It's like exercising two muscles at once, your listening muscle and your speaking muscle. Both work at the same time, and the more you practice, the stronger they become.
And let's not forget about rhythm and intonation. English isn't spoken in equal beats. Some parts rise, some fall, and sometimes the stress in a sentence changes the meaning entirely. When you shadow someone, you start internalizing that natural music of the language.
Many learners don't realize how much intonation can influence clarity. You can speak with correct grammar, but if your intonation doesn't match the patterns native speakers use, you might sound robotic or unsure. Shadowing helps you move away from that because you're practicing real-life speech patterns.
Shadowing also boosts fluency. When you speak at the same time as a native speaker, you're training yourself to construct sentences smoothly without pausing to translate or overthink. Over time, you start forming sentences automatically because your brain gets used to moving forward without stopping.
That's one of the most valuable parts of this technique. Fluency isn't about speed, it's about flow. And shadowing helps you experience that flow firsthand.
So, how do you begin? The first step is choosing audio that fits your level. If the material is too advanced, you'll find yourself lost and frustrated. If it's too easy, you won't challenge yourself enough to grow. Ideally, choose something just a little above your comfort zone.
Good options include short podcasts created for English learners or simple clips from interviews, shows, or movies where the speakers talk clearly. Audiobooks are excellent too, especially when you have the written text available. Reading along while listening gives you a strong visual and auditory connection to the language.
That written support is incredibly helpful in the beginning. It allows you to see the exact words you're hearing, so you can focus more on how they're spoken rather than guessing what the speaker said.
Once you've selected your audio, the next step is simply listening. Don't jump into shadowing immediately. Give yourself a moment to understand what's being said, how fast the speaker talks, and what the content is about. That brief preparation makes the shadowing much smoother.
Then you go into the actual shadowing. Start with only a sentence or two at a time. Play the audio, speak along with the narrator, and try to match everything. The tone, the rise and fall, the pace, even the slight pauses. Don't worry about perfection. The goal is to follow the speaker as closely as you can.
Think of it as learning a dance. At first, you're just trying to keep up with the steps, but as you repeat them, the movements feel more natural. The more often you shadow a short piece of audio, the more details you'll start to notice.
Repetition really matters. If you do it once, you're just warming up. When you go back and repeat the same line several times, you'll catch smaller elements you didn't hear at first. Maybe the speaker connects two words smoothly, or stresses a word you didn't expect. Those moments of awareness are what help you grow.
After you're comfortable with short segments, slowly increase the length. Move to a longer phrase, then a full paragraph, and eventually a full conversation. Over time, you'll find yourself capable of shadowing much more complex material.
Another helpful step, once you feel ready for it, is recording yourself. Many learners avoid this because hearing their own voice can feel uncomfortable, but it's one of the most effective ways to get honest feedback. When you compare your recording to the original, you'll immediately notice differences you simply couldn't hear while speaking.
And remember, you don't need to show the recording to anyone. This is just for your improvement. It's a self-check that helps you measure your progress.
The final thing to keep in mind is patience. Shadowing is a skill. Like any skill, it doesn't show results instantly, but if you stay consistent, you will see measurable improvement in your pronunciation, listening, and fluency. And that consistency doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't need long sessions every day. Even brief moments of focused practice can create real progress over time. Think of it like exercising. A small routine, repeated regularly, is far more effective than a single long workout once in a while.
That's so true. The key is forming a habit that feels doable. When shadowing becomes something you naturally fit into your day, your confidence starts to grow without you even noticing it. You begin to hear English differently, and the patterns sink in much more deeply.
Now, something many learners wonder is how to make their shadowing sessions more productive. One helpful strategy is to pay attention not only to the sounds, but also to the physical aspect of speaking. English uses mouth and tongue movements that may be very different from your first language. Even if you can't see the speaker, try imagining how their mouth is shaping each sound as you imitate it.
That's important because sound isn't only about what you hear, it's also about how you form it. The more intentionally you practice shaping the sounds, the more natural your speech will feel. It's almost like training your muscles to move in a new way, and the more you repeat those movements, the easier they become.
Another strategy is not to get stuck on individual words you don't catch right away. If you stop yourself every time you miss something, you'll lose the rhythm of the exercise. Instead, stay in sync with the speaker and look up any unfamiliar words afterward. Maintaining the flow is more important than perfect accuracy in the beginning.
Exactly. Staying with the speaker helps you build a sense of forward momentum. Later, when you go back to review the vocabulary or grammar structures, you already have the sound of the sentence in your mind. That combination of sound and understanding is powerful for long-term learning.
It can also help to explore different types of audio sources. When you stick to only one type, such as textbook audio, you might miss out on the richness of real-world speech. Try mixing podcasts, interviews, news reports, and even scenes from movies or shows. Each one exposes you to different accents, speeds, and speaking styles.
Variety makes the experience more interesting, too. When your brain hears the language in different contexts, it becomes better at adapting. It's like training yourself to handle conversations in real life where people don't all speak with the same tone or rhythm.
And whatever audio you choose, make sure it's something you enjoy. If you're bored or uninterested, the practice won't be nearly as effective. Find voices or topics that keep you engaged, because the more engaged you are, the more your brain retains.
That brings us to some common mistakes learners tend to make when starting shadowing. One frequent issue is choosing material that's far too advanced. When the audio is too fast or filled with unfamiliar vocabulary, learners often get discouraged. It's better to work your way up gradually.
Yes, building confidence is essential. Another mistake is focusing so much on saying every word perfectly that the overall intonation is ignored. But intonation is one of the most important elements of natural speech. If you match the melody of the speaker's voice, your English will sound much more fluent, even if you don't get every single detail perfect at first.
Another thing learners often forget is that shadowing is an active exercise. You can't do it casually or in the background. You really need to focus, listen closely, and move your mouth with intention. That level of attention is what makes the technique so effective.
And of course, nearly everyone feels frustrated at some point when they realize they don't sound exactly like the original speaker. But that's completely normal. The purpose of shadowing isn't to mimic someone perfectly. It's to stretch your abilities, help you notice patterns, and strengthen the skills you'll use in real conversation.
Speaking of conversation, let's demonstrate a simple shadowing example for anyone who wants to get a feel for how it works. I'll say a line first, and John will shadow it right behind me. Listeners can try the same thing at home.
And remember, don't worry if you're a little behind or if you miss a word. Just follow along as closely as you can.
Here's the sentence. Learning English becomes easier when you practice a little every day.
Learning English becomes easier when you practice a little every day.
That was a smooth follow along. And for those listening, that's all you need to do. Start small, match the sound, and keep going.
It really draws you into the language. You can actually feel yourself engaging with it instead of just studying it.
Now, for learners who are new to shadowing, let's look at some practical resources. Beginners often do well with slow, clear podcasts created specifically for language learners. These usually break down topics in simple language and maintain a steady, manageable pace.
And as you progress, you can challenge yourself with slightly more difficult material, such as short interviews or news segments where the speakers talk at natural speed. These help you get used to the way English sounds outside of structured lessons.
For advanced learners, you can try shadowing conversational dialogue from films or shows, lectures, debates, or even discussions between multiple speakers. The goal at that stage is to capture more complex rhythm, natural interruptions, and spontaneous phrasing.
That level of practice can be intense, but it's incredibly rewarding. You start recognizing smaller elements of speech like reduced sounds, blended words, or subtle emotional tone that you might never notice when listening passively.
Exactly, and by the time you're comfortable shadowing advanced material, you'll likely find that your own speaking sounds more fluent, with fewer pauses, and a much more native-like flow.
As we move forward, there's one thing I'd like learners to remember. Shadowing isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every attempt, even the messy ones, pushes you a little closer to natural, confident English.
And one of the best things about this technique is that you can shape it to fit your schedule. Whether you have a few minutes during breakfast, on a walk, or before bed, Those small pockets of time can add up to meaningful improvement.
And the more you integrate the small sessions into your day, the more natural the process becomes. Eventually, shadowing doesn't feel like a task anymore. It feels like a quick mental warm-up. It sharpens your ear and prepares your mind to think in English, even if only for a moment.
Think of it like tuning an instrument before you play. Even if you only do it briefly, it helps everything function more smoothly. When you shadow regularly, you're essentially tuning your brain for clearer pronunciation, better listening, and more confident speaking.
Another helpful idea is to create a comfortable environment for practice. Some learners like practicing while walking because moving helps them relax and stay focused. Others prefer practicing in front of a mirror so they can observe their mouth shapes as they speak. There's no single correct way to do it. The best approach is the one that helps you concentrate.
And if you ever feel nervous about making mistakes, remember that shadowing is a private exercise. You're not performing for anyone. You're exploring sounds, experimenting with rhythms, and training your voice to feel more comfortable expressing itself in English.
That's an important reminder. Learning a language is personal, and everyone improves at their own pace. The goal is to stay engaged with the process, not to compare yourself to someone else.
One thing many learners find motivating is tracking their progress. You can record yourself once every week or two and compare those recordings over time. Even if you don't notice improvement day by day, you'll be surprised how far you've come when you listen back.
Those recordings often reveal improvements you didn't even realize you were making. Maybe your tone sounds smoother, or your hesitation has decreased, or your sentences roll out more naturally. Progress sometimes happens quietly, but it's always happening if you keep practicing.
And when you notice those improvements, it encourages you to keep going. Consistency becomes easier when you're aware of your growth. It builds a kind of positive momentum that pushes you forward.
Another thing I'd recommend is switching up your audio sources every so often. For example, you might shadow a short podcast one day, then a scene from a movie the next. On another day, you might pick a short inspirational speech or a documentary clip. This variety exposes you to different voices and expressions, which strengthens your listening skills.
That's true. Different speakers have different rhythms, accents, and tones. When you challenge yourself with a range of voices, you become much more prepared for real-life conversations where people don't all speak the same way.
And when it comes to accents, learners sometimes worry that shadowing someone with a certain accent will cause them to pick up that accent permanently. But accents don't transfer that easily. What really sticks is the rhythm, clarity, and pronunciation patterns that improve your overall fluency.
Exactly. And having exposure to different accents can actually be beneficial. It trains your ear to adapt, which is extremely useful when speaking or listening in real-world situations.
Now, something we haven't talked much about yet is how shadowing helps with hesitation. Many learners pause or stop mid-sentence because they're translating in their heads. But when you shadow, you're training your brain to link sounds directly to meaning without stopping to translate.
That's a powerful skill. When you're not translating word for word, you become more fluid and natural. Your sentences come out faster and your speech sounds more connected.
And over time, that leads to more confident conversations. Instead of feeling stuck or unsure, you start responding more instinctively. Shadowing creates that instinct by repeatedly exposing you to real patterns of speech.
Another advantage is that shadowing helps build your intonation awareness. English uses rising and falling tones to express emotions, ask questions, emphasize ideas, and create a natural flow. When learners only study grammar, they often miss these musical qualities of the language.
Shadowing brings those qualities to the surface. You start noticing how native speakers stretch certain words, shorten others, and vary their speed depending on what they're saying. And once you hear those differences clearly, it becomes easier to reproduce them yourself.
Think of speech as having a rhythm, almost like music. Each sentence has a tone, a beat, and a natural rise and fall. When you shadow, you learn that rhythm not through rules, but through experience, by hearing it and copying it.
And that's what makes shadowing such a powerful tool. It helps you step into the sound of English rather than just reading about it. It's an immersive exercise that builds skills you might not get from traditional study methods alone.
For learners who feel stuck or frustrated with speaking, shadowing can be the breakthrough they need. It allows you to practice speaking even when you don't have a conversation partner available. And the more you practice, the easier real conversations become.
And speaking of real conversations, shadowing also helps learners become more comfortable with connected speech. In everyday English, words blend together. Sounds merge, syllables are shortened, and phrases are spoken quickly. Shadowing trains your ear to understand and produce those natural connections.
That's something learners often struggle with. They learn words individually, but real speech doesn't separate words clearly. Instead, English has its own flow. When you practice shadowing, you get used to hearing and producing that connected flow.
And gradually, you start speaking in longer, smoother stretches rather than word by word. That alone can make you sound much more fluent.
Now, for those who want to push themselves even further, you can try adding a small challenge. For example, after shadowing a short clip several times, try saying it without listening to the audio. This helps solidify the pattern in your mind and strengthens your memory of the structure.
That's a great challenge because it blends shadowing with memorization, pronunciation, and confidence building all at once. And you don't have to do it perfectly. The goal is simply to stretch your ability a little.
And no matter where you are in your learning journey, beginner, intermediate, or advanced, shadowing can adapt to your level. It's flexible, practical, and highly effective.
And the more you practice, the more clearly you'll notice your progress in everyday listening and speaking. Simple conversations feel easier, and understanding natural English becomes less intimidating.